The crystalline dome stretched impossibly high above Ambassador Marcus Hall, its transparent ceiling revealing the swirling nebula beyond. He stood alone in the center of the Grand Assembly, surrounded by 3,000 species who controlled every corner of known space. The air hummed with voices speaking languages that humanity had learned only 2 decades ago. When Earth received its first alien visitors, Marcus kept his hands clasped behind his back, his expression neutral as he faced the Council Triumvirate. The 3 most powerful beings in the galaxy sat upon thrones carved from compressed starlight. High Chancellor Viarin resembled a living crystal, his body refracting rainbow patterns across the chamber floor. War Matron Krell towered beside him, her 4 muscular arms crossed over her armored chest, while Thought Keeper Ilix existed as pure energy contained within a shimmering field. The silence felt heavy, oppressive, every alien eye in the chamber fixed upon the lone human representative. Viarin spoke first, his voice resonating through translation devices embedded in the walls. Ambassador Hall, humanity has been summoned to answer serious charges. For 20 years, your species has claimed to be peaceful explorers, grateful for our guidance in galactic affairs. Marcus said nothing. He simply waited. 3 months ago, Viarin continued, our deep space monitors detected unusual energy signatures emanating from your home system. Signatures that match extinct civilizations. Dangerous civilizations that threaten galactic stability and had to be eliminated for the greater good. A murmur rippled through the assembled aliens. Marcus noticed several species shifting nervously in their seats. Others leaned forward with anticipation. War Matron Krell rose from her throne, her voice a harsh growl. We have evidence that Earth is developing weapons far beyond your authorized technological level. You have violated the Millennium Accord. You have broken treaties signed in good faith. Worse, you have lied about your true capabilities since first contact. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. May I speak, High Chancellor? Viarin gestured with one crystalline appendage. You may offer your defense before we pass judgment. I have no defense to offer, Marcus said calmly, because your accusations are absolutely correct. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Aliens stood from their seats. Translation devices struggled to keep pace with the cacophony of languages. Viarin raised his hand, and silence fell once more. You admit to deceiving this council? Viarin asked, his tone sharp. I admit that humanity has not been entirely forthcoming about certain facts, Marcus replied. But then again, neither has this council. Krell slammed one fist against her throne. You dare accuse us of deception? Humanity will submit to immediate disarmament and occupation, or face total isolation from galactic commerce and protection. Choose now, Ambassador. Marcus tapped his wrist communicator, and holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber. Gasps echoed from every tier as images appeared showing not one human world, but hundreds of them. Thriving colonies scattered across vast stretches of space, massive orbital stations. Cities that dwarfed anything the Council had seen from humanity before. You assumed Earth was our only world, Marcus said, his quiet voice somehow carrying to every corner of the massive dome. That was your first mistake. More images appeared. Sleek warships emerging from dark space. Battle stations the size of moons. Weapons platforms hidden within asteroid fields. Defense grids spanning entire star systems. You assumed 20 years was enough time to understand us, Marcus continued. That was your second mistake. Baron leaned forward on his throne. What is the meaning of this display? The energy signatures you detected? Marcus turned slowly, addressing the entire assembly rather than just the triumvirate. Those were not weapons being developed. They were weapons being deactivated. You see, humanity has been at peace for 1,000 years. We had almost forgotten what we were truly capable of when threatened. Thoughtkeeper Ilix spoke for the first time, its voice like wind chimes. Impossible. Our scouts discovered Earth as a primitive world barely capable of space travel. Our records are thorough. Your scouts found exactly what we wanted them to find, Marcus said. Earth was a facade. A false front presented to the galaxy while we observed and learned. For 20 years, we have studied every species in this council. We know your military capabilities, your political structures, your weaknesses. Krell roared in fury. This is an act of war. Marcus shook his head. No, War Matron. This is a correction to your assumptions. You gathered intelligence on humanity and made conclusions based on incomplete data. We simply did the same to you, except we were more thorough. Viren stood from his throne, his crystalline body blazing with light. You cannot threaten the Galactic Council and expect to survive. We command fleets numbering in the millions. We have maintained order for 10,000 years. What makes you think humanity can stand against the combined might of 3,000 civilizations? Marcus touched his communicator again. The holographic displays shifted, showing new images that made several aliens cry out in alarm. Around the council capital itself, massive structures materialized as their cloaking fields deactivated. Battle stations that had been hiding in plain sight, invisible to every scanning system the council possessed. Because we have been here all along, Marcus said softly. Watching, waiting, learning. The real question, High Chancellor, is not whether humanity can stand against the council. The question is why we chose to reveal ourselves now. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Viren stared at the images surrounding his capital world, his crystalline face impossible to read. You have three options, Marcus continued. First, you can attempt to enforce your judgment and discover that humanity is not as helpless as you believed. Second, you can negotiate new terms that treat us as equals rather than subordinates. Or third, you can listen to what I came here to tell you before this unfortunate misunderstanding interrupted our conversation. What message could possibly justify this deception? Ilix asked. Marcus's expression turned grave. That the energy signatures you detected were not human weapons at all? They were distress signals, warnings, because the real threat to this galaxy is not humanity, High Chancellor. It is what we have been hiding from for the past 1,000 years. And your aggressive posturing has just announced to them exactly where to find us. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed as Council defense systems activated. A terrified technician burst into the chamber. High Chancellor. Deep space monitors at the Galactic Rim have gone dark. All 37 stations. They detected something massive approaching before communications ceased. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with grim determination. It seems we are out of time for diplomatic niceties. I suggest we move to a more secure location, High Chancellor. We have much to discuss, and very little time to prepare. Viren stared at the human ambassador with newfound uncertainty. Prepare for what? For the real war, Marcus said. The one humanity has been preparing to fight for a millennium. 3 weeks earlier, Admiral Rachel Kovar walked through the underground corridors beneath Geneva. The facility stretched 5 kilometers deep into the Earth's crust. Protected by layers of shielding that made it invisible to orbital scans, she passed through 3 security checkpoints before reaching the central command chamber, where the Human Defense Council waited. 12 faces looked up as she entered. These men and women represented Earth's true leadership, individuals whose names appeared nowhere in public records. The world above believed humanity was governed by the United Nations. They had no idea that real decisions happened here. In rooms that officially did not exist, General Thomas Reeves gestured to an empty seat. You are late, Admiral. Traffic, Rachel replied dryly as she sat. What do we know? Director Lisa Park activated the holographic display at the center of the table. Images appeared showing the Galactic Council capital and surrounding space. Our deep cover operatives report increased military activity around Council headquarters. They are scanning human space more aggressively. 3 of our cloaked observation posts were nearly detected last week. Rachel studied the images. They are getting suspicious. It's worse than suspicious, Lisa continued. We intercepted coded communications between High Chancellor Viren and War Matron Krell. They are planning what they call a preemptive pacification of Earth within the next 60 days. Thomas slammed his fist on the table. 20 years we have played this game. 20 years of pretending to be grateful primitives while they treat us like children. I say we end the charade now. and reveal our true strength. Another council member asked, "That could trigger exactly the war we have been avoiding." Rachel cleared her throat. "May I remind everyone why we started this charade in the first place? We needed intelligence. We needed to understand galactic politics before revealing ourselves. Now we have that intelligence, and it has confirmed our worst fears." She stood and manipulated the holographic controls. New images appeared showing ancient records recovered from dead civilizations. The Galactic Council has a pattern. When a species shows too much technological promise, they manufacture a crisis. They impose sanctions and disarmament protocols, claiming it is for galactic stability. If the species resists, they are labeled dangerous and eliminated. The images shifted, showing graveyard systems. Planets reduced to lifeless rocks. We have identified 17 advanced civilizations that disappeared shortly after refusing council authority. The official records claim they destroyed themselves or were wiped out by natural disasters. Our analysis suggests otherwise. Elmalis nodded grimly. They were murdered to prevent competition. Exactly, Rachel confirmed. The council maintains power by ensuring no single species can challenge their authority. They allow limited technological advancement, but anything approaching their capabilities triggers intervention. Lisa brought up new data, which brings us to our current problem. Our expansion over the past 1,000 years has not been as hidden as we hoped. The Council has detected unusual gravitational anomalies consistent with large-scale colonization. They know something is out there. They just have not connected it to Earth yet. But they will, Rachel said, which is why we need to control when and how that revelation happens. Ambassador Marcus is scheduled to attend the council session in 18 days. We send him knowing it is a trap. You want to use him as bait? One council member asked, shocked. Marcus volunteered, Rachel replied. He understands the stakes. When the council confronts him, he will reveal enough truth to make them hesitate. It's time to move our fleets into position. Thomas pulled up tactical displays showing ship movements across human space. We have been positioning the sleeper fleets for 3 months. Once Marcus gives the signal, we can have battle groups surrounding every major council world within 48 hours. That will look like an invasion, someone protested. It will look like a deterrent, Rachel corrected. Council respects strength. We show them we cannot be easily conquered. They will negotiate instead of attack. Lisa's expression turned troubled.
Wow.
There is another complication. Our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual readings from beyond the galactic rim. Energy patterns that match historical records from the Exodus. The room fell silent. Every person at the table knew what the Exodus meant. Rachel felt cold dread settle in her stomach. Are you certain? 87% probability, Lisa said quietly. The signatures are faint, but consistent with void collective scout patterns. Thomas went pale. After 1,000 years of silence, they return now? The timing cannot be coincidence. It is not, Rachel agreed. The Council's military buildup has created exactly the kind of energy signature that attracts them. Mass fleet movements, weapons testing, the charging of their orbital defense grid. To the collective, it looks like a feast being prepared. She manipulated the controls again, bringing up humanity's darkest secret, images of war, T's consumed by darkness, fleets destroyed by enemies that could not be killed because they were not truly alive. 1,000 years ago, humanity encountered the Void Collective. We lost 90% of our population in the first year. Hundreds of colonies simply vanished overnight. The images showed desperate battles, humanity throwing everything they had at an enemy that adapted to every tactic, every weapon. We tried to warn the other civilizations we had encountered. They ignored us, called us liars and warmongers. By the time they realized the threat was real, the collective had consumed them entirely. The survivors made a hard choice, Rachel continued. We went dark, shut down every advanced technology that might attract attention, created Earth as a decoy, a primitive world that would not register as a threat or a meal. We hid our real colonies in the shadows between stars, rebuilding slowly, quietly, waiting. Thomas stared at the images. And now the council has rung the dinner bell. Precisely, Rachel said, which changes our strategy. We cannot simply reveal ourselves to the Council and hope for the best. We need them to understand the real threat. We need them ready to fight when the collective arrives. Will they believe us? Someone asked. You said they ignored our warnings before? The species that ignored us are extinct, Rachel replied coldly. The current council has no memory of the collective. Their oldest records mention something called the Purge Protocol. Warnings from their founders about extra-dimensional threats. They dismissed it as primitive superstition. Lisa brought up probability models. If we do nothing, the collective will follow the council's energy signature to the capital. They will consume every species in the chamber. Billions of lives lost in days. If we warn them without proof, they will think we are creating a false threat to justify our military buildup, Thomas added. They will see it as a manipulation tactic. Rachel nodded, which is why Marcus will not mention the collective initially. He reveals our true strength, makes the council hesitate. Then, when their sensors detect the collective approaching, we become their only hope, instead of their enemy. You are gambling with the entire galaxy, one council member said. I am giving humanity a chance to fight alongside allies instead of being hunted as threats, Rachel corrected. The 1,000-year peace is over. The collective is returning. The only question is whether we face them alone or with the combined strength of 3,000 civilizations behind us. The vote was unanimous. Marcus would proceed to the council capital. The sleeper fleets would activate on his signal. Humanity would finally step out of the shadows, ready to teach the galaxy how to fight the monsters in the dark. As the meeting concluded, Lisa pulled Rachel aside. There is one thing I did not mention in front of the others. Our analysis of the collective's approach vector suggests they are not coming randomly. They're being drawn to something specific. The council's energy signature, Rachel said. No. Lisa's hands trembled slightly. To us. To the human fleet positions. It is as if they remember us, Admiral. After 1,000 years, they remember where we hid, and they are coming to finish what they started. Rachel stared at the tactical display showing her beautiful blue planet. Earth had been a haven, a refuge. Now it might become the battlefield where humanity made its final stand. Then we make sure they remember why it took them so long to find us, she said quietly. And we show them what 1,000 years of preparation looks like. War Matron Krell stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Crimson Talon, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Behind her stretched 300 capital ships of the Drachner War Fleet, the most powerful military force ever assembled by a single council species. Ships that had crushed 17 rebellions and brought entire sectors to heel. High Chancellor Viren counsels patience, her second-in-command said carefully. He suggests negotiation with the humans before military action. Krell's forearms flexed with contempt. Viren is soft. He has grown weak administering bureaucracy. I am a warrior, and I recognize a bluff when I see one. These humans show us images of fleets and weapons, but images can be fabricated. They want us to fear shadows. She pointed at the holographic display showing New Harmony, a human agricultural colony on the frontier. We will test their resolve. One colony. Minimal defenses, according to our intelligence. Humans are truly as powerful as they claim, they will defend it. If not, we expose their deception, and the Council will support total pacification of Earth. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Harmony system. Krell ordered a formation that had served Drachner military doctrine for centuries. A wall of firepower that could reduce a planet to molten slag in minutes. Broadcasting to all Council channels, she announced, "Let every species watch as I call humanity's bluff. Let them see what happens to those who deceive the Galactic Council." The fleet advanced toward New Harmony, weapons charging, shields at maximum. Krell expected desperate pleas for mercy. Frantic evacuation efforts. A chaos of an unprepared colony facing overwhelming force. Instead, she found silence. The planet appeared on their screens. Cities intact, but dark. Agricultural fields empty. Orbital stations present, but showing no life signs. Scanning for population, her tactical officer reported. I am detecting no life forms. The colony appears abandoned. Krell frowned. When did they evacuate? Analyzing residual heat signatures. Based on degradation patterns, the evacuation occurred approximately 72 hours ago. 3 days before Krell had even ordered the attack. Before she had announced her intentions to anyone except her most trusted commanders. How did they know? She muttered. The answer came in the form of weapons fire. Defense platforms materialized out of empty space, their cloaking fields dropping simultaneously. Not dozens of platforms, hundreds, thousands. They surrounded her fleet in a perfect sphere, appearing at ranges that made evasive action impossible. Shields up, Krell roared, but her order came too late. The first salvo did not explode against her ships. Instead, the weapons passed through shields as if they did not exist, striking hulls directly where they hit, metal-aged. Armor that had withstood centuries of warfare crumbled to rust in seconds. Ships that had been pristine moments ago suddenly looked like ancient derelicts. Temporal weapons, her science officer gasped. They are accelerating localized time fields. Our shields cannot stop them because they are not blocking energy. They are manipulating reality itself. 3 ships disintegrated completely, their molecular bonds failing as they aged millennia in heartbeats. Krell ordered return fire, but the defense platforms phased in and out of normal space. Drachner weapons struck empty void where targets had been microseconds before. Every shot wasted, every missile chasing ghosts. Target the planet, she commanded. If we cannot destroy their defenses, we destroy what they are defending. The order went out. 24 ships broke formation, turning their weapons toward New Harmony's surface. They would leave nothing but scorched rock. Before they could fire, something new happened. A transmission broadcast directly into the neural implants every Drachner War for battlefield communication. But this was not voice or data. This was raw sensation. Krell felt pain, not her own pain. The pain of every species the Drachner had conquered. Fear from civilians fleeing orbital bombardment, grief from parents watching children die. The accumulated suffering of centuries of Drachner military campaigns condensed into a single overwhelming wave of anguish. Around her, bridge crew collapsed. Some screamed. Others simply shut down, their minds unable to process the sensory overload. Across the fleet, captains reported the same phenomenon. Warriors reduced to trembling shadows of themselves. The transmission cut off after 17 seconds, but those 17 seconds felt like hours. A new voice came through standard communication channels. Female, human, calm. War Matron Krell, this is Commander Eva Stone of New Harmony Defense Command. Your fleet is disabled. Your crews are alive but psychologically compromised. This was not an attack. This was a lesson. Krell struggled to her feet, fury and shame warring in her chest. You dare use such weapons? This violates every warfare convention. Your species has no room to lecture others about warfare conventions, Eva replied, her tone neutral. We have records of 73 instances where Drachner forces employed prohibited weapons against civilian populations. We simply gave you a taste of the consequences. On screen, Krell could see her fleet drifting, disabled, but not destroyed. The human weapons had been precise, surgical. They could have annihilated every ship in the first salvo. Instead, they had demonstrated absolute control. 17 minutes, Eva continued. That is how long it took to disable your entire fleet. We could have done it in 17 seconds, War Matron. It took 17 minutes so you could watch each ship fall and understand the gap between our capabilities and yours. Krell's tactical officer brought up damage reports. Every ship showed the same pattern. Weapons disabled. Engines offline. Life support functional. Escape pods ready. The humans had neutered her entire fleet without killing a single soldier. Your crews will be transported to the nearest council medical facility, Eva said. They will recover physically within days. Psychologically, they will carry the memory of this encounter for the rest of their lives. Consider it a gift, War Matron. A reminder that mercy is not weakness. This changes nothing, Krell snarled. The Council will not stand for this humiliation. You have made an enemy of the Drachner hegemony. We already were enemies, Eva replied. You just did not know it yet. New Harmony was never a real colony, War Matron. It was a trap. We built it 3 years ago specifically for this purpose. We knew eventually someone on the council would test humanity's strength. We made sure the test happened on our terms, in a location of our choosing, against an opponent we had studied extensively. Krell felt ice settle in her stomach. 3 years. They had been planning this for 3 years. How much else had they prepared? We know your military doctrine, Eva continued, as if reading her thoughts. We know your fleet compositions, your preferred tactics, your supply chain vulnerabilities. We have studied every species on the council, War Matron. We know who would ally with us and who would oppose us. We know which governments are stable and which are one bad decision away from collapse. We have been watching, learning, and preparing. While you believed us to be primitive newcomers, grateful for your guidance, Ava's image appeared on the view screen. She looked young, perhaps 30 standard years. She sat calmly in a command center, surrounded by holographic displays, as if disabling a war fleet was routine business. Go back to the council, War Matron. Tell them what happened here. Tell them humanity does not bluff, and tell them that if they choose war, we will win. But we would prefer to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. The transmission ended around Krell. Her bridge crew slowly recovered, but their eyes held a hollowness that had not been there before. They had felt the weight of their own history turned against them. They would never forget it. War Matron, we are receiving multiple priority transmissions from Council headquarters, her communications officer reported. High Chancellor Viren demands an immediate report. Also, there are encoded messages from several Council species requesting private communication channels. Krell understood what that meant. Other species watching the broadcast were already calculating whether they should distance themselves from Drachner aggression. Political alliances would shift before her disabled ships even made it back to friendly space. She had come to New Harmony expecting an easy victory. Instead, she had given humanity exactly what they wanted, a demonstration that would terrify the Council into caution. Begin recovery operations, she ordered quietly. Prepare my ship for emergency jump to Council space the moment engines are restored. As her crew worked, Krell stared at the planet below, peaceful, untouched, a carefully constructed stage for humanity's grand performance. High Chancellor Viren had been right to counsel patience. These humans were not primitives stumbling in galactic politics. They were apex predators who had spent 20 years studying their prey before revealing their fangs, and Krell had just shown the entire galaxy what happened when you underestimated them. High Chancellor Viren sat alone in his private chamber, watching data streams from the galactic rim. 37 deep space monitoring stations had gone silent in the past 6 hours. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply gone as if they had never existed. The door chimed. Enter, he said quietly. Ambassador Marcus walked in, no longer wearing the diplomatic facade he had maintained for 20 years. His expression was grim, carrying the weight of someone delivering terrible news. The Council demands your immediate arrest, Viren said. War Matron Krell's humiliation has made you many enemies. Half the member species are calling for humanity's expulsion or worse. And the other half? Marcus asked. Are terrified of you, Viren admitted, which makes them almost as dangerous. Fear drives poor decisions. Marcus moved to the holographic display showing the silent rim stations. You know what is happening out there? It was not a question. Viren studied the human ambassador, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not a supplicant seeking council approval. Not a primitive playing at diplomacy. Soldier who had been carrying a burden for far too long. Tell me, Viren said. Marcus manipulated the controls, bringing up historical records. Images of civilizations that predated the current council. Advanced species with technology that made current galactic powers look primitive. 1,000 years ago, there were 8 major civilizations in this galaxy. Not 3,000 small species squabbling over territory. 8 true powers that shaped reality itself. Viren recognized some of the symbols. They appeared in the Council's oldest archives, references to founders and predecessors. What happened to them? They encountered the Void Collective, Marcus said. An entity that does not exist in our dimension but feeds on it. Not a species as we understand it. Hive consciousness that consumes entire civilizations to fuel its expansion across dimensional barriers. He brought up combat footage. Viren watched in horror as ships simply ceased to exist, not exploded. Not destroyed, erased, removed from reality as if they had never been built. The collective does not kill, Marcus explained. It absorbs every ship, every soldier, every civilian. They become part of its mass consciousness, their knowledge, and capabilities integrated into something larger and incomprehensible. The more it consumes, the stronger it becomes. This is why your species went into hiding, Viren realized. Marcus nodded. Humanity encountered the collective during our expansion era. We were arrogant, confident. We had defeated every threat we had ever faced. We believed ourselves invincible. New images appeared. Human cities burning, fleets being consumed by darkness that moved like liquid. We lost 90% of our population in the first year. Hundreds of colonies vanished overnight. Our most brilliant scientists could not develop weapons fast enough to counter the collective's adaptations. Viren watched world after world fall. How did you survive? Desperation and sacrifice, Marcus said quietly. The remaining human forces gathered at Earth, our ancestral homeworld. We prepared for a final stand, knowing we would likely lose. But instead of attacking, the collective simply left, moved on to other feeding grounds. Why? We still do not fully understand. Our best theory is that we became too costly. The collective operates on efficiency. It seeks civilizations that provide maximum absorption with minimum resistance. Humans fought. Every single person. Even when cities burned and fleets fell, we refused to surrender. We made ourselves too expensive a meal. Marcus's hands clenched briefly, so we went dark, shut down every technology that might attract attention, created Earth as a decoy, primitive world showing just enough advancement to explain our presence, but not enough to register as a threat. We hid our real colonies in stellar dead zones and dark matter clouds. We rebuilt slowly, quietly, always watching the deep dark for signs of the collective's return. Thoughtkeeper Ilix materialized in the chamber, its energy field pulsing with urgency. Hi, Chancellor, you need to see this. The display shifted to show real-time data from the galactic edge. A wave of distortion moving toward the core. Not ships, not matter. A fundamental wrongness that sensors barely registered. It has been expanding from beyond the rim for the past 8 hours, Ilix reported. Every system it touches goes silent. No debris, no survivors. Just empty space where civilizations existed moments before. Viren felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Raw fear. How long until it reaches the council capital? At current velocity, 72 hours, Ilix said, but the collective does not move at consistent speeds. It accelerates toward concentrations of life and energy. Our capital, with 3,000 species gathered in one location, represents the largest energy signature in the galaxy. Marcus pulled up probability models. The Council's recent military buildup created exactly the kind of beacon that attracts the collective. Your weapons testing. Your fleet mobilizations preparing to pacify humanity. You rang the dinner bell and announced a feast. Why did you not warn us? Viren demanded. We tried, Marcus replied, his voice sharp. 700 years ago, human emissaries made contact with the species that founded your council. We shared everything we knew about the collective. They called us liars and fearmongers. They refused to believe anything could threaten civilizations as advanced as theirs. We were brought up ancient records, text and languages that predated modern translation protocols. By the time they realized we were telling the truth, the collective had consumed their entire civilization. Every world. Every ship. Every individual. They simply ceased to exist. You are sitting in their chambers, High Chancellor, using their laws, following their protocols, and you do not even remember their names. Viren studied the records, seeing references to something called the Purge Protocol, warnings about extra-dimensional threats, instructions for emergency defensive measures, information that current council leadership had dismissed as primitive superstition from paranoid founders. The collective took them because they were unprepared, Marcus continued. They believed themselves safe, superior. They ignored warnings because accepting them would mean acknowledging vulnerability. The same mistake you are making now. Ilix's form flickered. I have analyzed the probability matrices. If we continue on current course, the collective reaches the capital in 68 hours. Current council defenses will delay it by approximately 4 minutes before complete absorption. Casualty projections are total. Not a single individual survives. And if we evacuate, VR asked. The collective follows the largest concentration of sentient life, Marcus said. You evacuate the capital, it chases your evacuation fleets. You scatter across the galaxy, it picks off isolated groups. The only way to survive is to fight. You said we cannot win. Said your current defenses cannot win, Marcus corrected. But humanity has been preparing for this moment for 1,000 years. We have weapons designed specifically to counter collective absorption patterns. We have tactics developed through combat experience and centuries of simulation. We have made fighting the collective our entire purpose. Viaran looked at the human ambassador with new understanding. That is why you revealed yourselves now. You need allies. We need the combined military might of 3,000 civilizations, Marcus admitted. The collective has grown, consumed more species, become stronger. Humanity alone cannot stop it. But humanity leading a coordinated galactic defense? That gives us a chance. You're asking me to trust you, Viaran said? To hand control of council military forces to a species we know nothing about. I'm asking you to choose between pride and survival, Marcus replied. In 68 hours, nothing else will matter. An alert sounded. Vron's tactical officer appeared on the display. Hi, Chancellor. We have emergency signals from 17 council member species. They are requesting immediate military support. Their border worlds are reporting contact with unknown hostile forces. They describe them as darkness that consumes everything it touches. Yaren looked at Marcus. 17 species in how much time? The signals all came within the last 10 minutes, the officer reported. It is accelerating, Illich said quietly. The collective has detected the council capital. It is moving faster now. Marcus activated his communicator. Admiral Kovar, execute protocol endgame. Full deployment. No more shadows. Across the galaxy, human forces emerged from hiding. The sleeper fleets powered up. Defense stations revealed themselves. Weapons platforms that had been dark for centuries came online. On the holographic display, Farron watched as thousands of human ships appeared on sensors. Not the hundreds Marcus had shown before, thousands. An armada that dwarfed anything the Council had assembled. This is what humanity built while hiding, Marcus said. Every resource, every innovation, every moment of our 1,000-year peace dedicated to preparing for this day. We can teach you how to fight the collective, High Chancellor. But we need your help. We need your fleets. We need every species united against this threat. Yarn stared at the approaching darkness. At the human armada? At the choice before him. Summon the Council, he said finally. All member species. Emergency war session. If humanity is willing to lead us through this nightmare, then the galaxy will follow. Admiral Rachel Kovar stood in the command center of the Human Defense Fleet flagship Valiant Dawn, watching tactical displays that showed the entire galaxy. Around her, officers coordinated with representatives from 3,000 species. Languages once used for diplomacy now served. Battlefield communications. 40-8 hours had passed since Marcus revealed the Void Collective to the Council. 48 hours of frantic preparation as humanity taught the galaxy how to fight an enemy that should not exist. Status report. Rachel ordered Captain David Cross, commander of the Sleeper Fleet Vanguard. Responded from his ship in the outer defense perimeter. All human battle groups in position. Council species have assembled their fleets according to our tactical directives. The defensive grid around the capital is operational. Rachel studied the formations. Human ships formed the spine of every defensive line, with Council vessels integrated according to their capabilities. Fast attack ships from the Velorn Collective. Heavy cruisers from the Thalaxian Empire. Support carriers from dozens of smaller species. It was the largest military force ever assembled. The Collective will reach the outer defense perimeter in 17 minutes, her tactical officer reported. On the display, the approaching darkness looked like a stain spreading across reality. Sensors could barely define it. 37 monitoring stations, 17 border worlds, hundreds of smaller outposts, all gone, consumed, added to the collective's incomprehensible mass. Broadcast to all ships, Rachel said. This is Admiral Kovar. In 16 minutes, we face an enemy that nearly destroyed humanity. An enemy that has consumed countless civilizations. It does not negotiate. It does not retreat. It absorbs everything it touches. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we are not the species it faced 1,000 years ago. We have prepared. We have adapted. And we are not alone. Today, 3,000 civilizations stand united. Today we teach the collective what happens when prey becomes predator. War Matron Krell, commanding a Drachner battle group integrated into the defensive grid, responded over the channel. Human tactical doctrine is strange, Admiral. Your ships seem positioned to retreat rather than engage. That is because our first objective is not to destroy the collective, Rachel replied. It is to understand how it has changed. We need combat data before committing to full assault. General Thomas Reeves, coordinating ground defenses on the capital world, cut into the channel. Admiral, we have civilian evacuation at 87%. The remaining 13% refuse to leave. Their choice, Rachel said grimly. Make sure they have access to emergency shelters. Beyond that, we cannot force them. High Chancellor Viren appeared on her display from his emergency command post. Admiral, the Council has granted you full military authority for the duration of this engagement. What are your orders? Rachel appreciated the irony. 72 hours ago, the Council had tried to arrest Marcus. Now they were trusting humanity to save them. Fear changed perspectives quickly. All ships maintain current positions, she ordered. Do not engage until I give the command. The collective will test our defenses. Let it think we are afraid. The darkness reached the outer perimeter. Human sensor ships immediately began detailed scans, gathering data on the collective's composition and behavior. What they found made Rachel's blood run cold. It is larger than our historical records indicated, her science officer reported. Preliminary analysis suggests it has absorbed at least 40 civilizations since we last encountered it. Energy readings are off the scale. David's voice came through, steady, despite the proximity to the collective. It is probing our formations, sending tendrils to test response times. On the tactical display, Rachel watched as fingers of darkness reached toward David's ships. They moved with intelligence, searching for weakness. In the defensive grid. All ships hold position, she ordered. Let it come closer. The collective's tendrils touched the first defensive line. Council ships opened fire, their weapons blazing. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, exotic particle weapons, everything conventional military doctrine prescribed. The darkness absorbed it all. Weapons fire simply disappeared into the void, adding energy to the collective's mass. Rachel heard panic on the communication channels. Council captains reporting that their weapons had no effect. Species that had never known defeat, suddenly facing an enemy they could not hurt. Human ships activate Phase 1, Rachel commanded. The sleeper fleet revealed its first true weapon. Generators hummed to life, creating fields that did not destroy the collective, but repelled it. The darkness recoiled from human ships like oil from water. Disruption fields operational, David reported. The collective cannot absorb what it cannot touch. Phase 2, Rachel ordered. Dimensional anchors. Around the defensive perimeter, massive installations activated. They did not fire weapons. Instead, they stabilized local spacetime, preventing the collective from phasing between dimensions. The entity that could move through reality like liquid suddenly found itself constrained. War Matron. Krell's voice carried new respect. You are not trying to destroy it. You are trying to trap it. Exactly, Rachel confirmed. The collective exists partially in our dimension and partially outside it. That is why conventional weapons pass through without effect. We force it fully into our reality, we can hurt it. The collective seemed to realize the trap. It surged forward with terrifying speed, abandoning cautious probing for full assault. Darkness crashed against the defensive lines like a tsunami. "All ships fall back to secondary positions," Rachel ordered. "Execute retreat pattern Delta." Human ships withdrew in perfect coordination, drawing the collective deeper into the defensive grid. Council ships followed their lead, maintaining formation despite their terror. "It is taking the bait," David reported. "The collective is fully committed to the capital assault." Rachel watched the darkness flow into her carefully prepared killing field. Around it, the dimensional anchors formed a cage. Behind it, human ships sealed the retreat path. She said quietly, "The galaxy learned what humanity had built. During its 1,000-year peace, weapons platforms hidden throughout the defensive zone activated simultaneously. Not energy weapons that the collective could absorb. These were reality anchors, devices that force matter to obey fundamental physical laws. Where the collective existed as fluid darkness, the anchors made it solid, made it real, made it vulnerable." The darkness screamed. Rachel did not know how something without a voice could scream, but the sound echoed across every communication channel. A howl of rage and pain from a being that had never known either. "All ships, open fire," Rachel commanded. 3,000 species unleashed their arsenals against a target that could finally be hurt. The collective tried to phase out of reality, but the dimensional anchors held it in place. It tried to absorb incoming fire, but the disruption fields prevented contact. Human ships added their own weapons to the barrage. Not conventional guns. These were temporal accelerators. The same weapons used against War Matron. Krell's fleet, but scaled up for combat against an entity that existed across multiple time streams. The collective began to fragment. Pieces of darkness separated from the main mass, trying to escape. Council ships pursued, following human tactical directives to prevent any fragment from reaching populated systems. "General Reeves, status on ground defenses?" Rachel asked. "The collective is attempting to bypass our fleet and reach the capital surface directly," Thomas reported. "Our atmospheric disruption fields are holding, but it is adapting faster than projected." Rachel made a decision. "Captain Cross, take the Vanguard fleet and provide atmospheric support. I need those fields reinforced." David acknowledged and detached his battle group, diving toward the planet. His ships entered the atmosphere, deploying additional field generators that created a dome over population centers. The collective crashed against the barrier like waves on a shore. Each impact weakened the field slightly. Each impact showed the limits of human technology. "We cannot hold this indefinitely," Thomas said. "We do not need to hold indefinitely," Rachel replied. "We need to hold long enough." On the tactical display, she watched the main collective mass fragmenting under sustained fire. But the pieces were not dying. They were reforming, adapting, learning. "It is beginning to counter the disruption fields," her science officer warned. "Estimated breakthrough in 12 minutes. Rachel pulled up data from humanity's first encounter with the collective. The records showed the same pattern. Initial success, then adaptation, then defeat. The collective learned from every attack, becoming immune to tactics that had worked before. But humanity had learned to. "Activate the resonance array," Rachel ordered. Deep in human-controlled space, 3 installations came online. Not weapons. Not defenses. Communication arrays built according to principles humanity had discovered during their darkest hour. The arrays broadcast a signal directly into the collective's consciousness. Not words. Not data. Something more fundamental. The signal carried memories from every species the collective had ever consumed. Billions of individual voices crying out simultaneously, demanding recognition as separate beings, rather than components of a hive mind. The collective's assault faltered. Its coordinated movements became erratic. The darkness writhed as if in pain. "What are you doing to it?" High Chancellor Vieran asked, watching in amazement. "We are reminding it what it has consumed," Rachel said quietly. "Every civilization it absorbed still exists within its mass. Every individual consciousness. For 1,000 years, we have researched ways to reach those trapped minds and wake them up. On every display, the collective began to tear itself apart, not from external attack, From internal rebellion? Absorbed species fighting for identity? Consumed individuals refusing to remain part of the collective whole? But Rachel knew this was not enough. The resonance array disrupted the collective, but it could not destroy it. She needed something more. All human ships execute protocol final stand, she said. David's voice came through immediately. Admiral, that protocol requires sacrifice. We have not exhausted all other options. We have exhausted time, Rachel replied. The collective will adapt to the resonance array within minutes. We end this now, or face another 1,000 years of hiding. Around the collective, human ships moved into position. Each vessel activated its core reactor, pushing power levels far beyond safe limits. They were not preparing to fire weapons. They were preparing to become weapons. All council ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance, Rachel ordered. What comes next is for humanity alone, or Matron Krell protested. We stand with you, Admiral. We appreciate it, Rachel said. But this requires human crews willing to make a choice that we cannot ask of others. The council ships withdrew reluctantly. Only human vessels remained, surrounding the fragmenting collective in a sphere of controlled determination. Rachel opened a channel to every human ship. You all volunteered for this mission knowing the cost. You all accepted that survival might require sacrifice. I am proud to serve with you. Earth will remember. Humanity will remember. Captain David Cross responded for all of them. We did not hide for 1,000 years just to die afraid. We hid to prepare, to become strong enough to fight. Today, we are strong enough. Today, we win. The human ships detonated their cores simultaneously. Not simple explosions. Controlled reactions that created temporary rifts in reality itself. The collective, already destabilized by the resonance array, could not withstand being torn between dimensions. The darkness imploded, collapsing into a singularity that existed for precisely 2.7 seconds, before evaporating completely. In the aftermath, silence filled the communication channels. Rachel stared at her tactical display, seeing empty space where the collective had been, where David and 300 ships had been. High Chancellor Vaughn's voice broke the quiet. Did we win? We survived, Rachel corrected. At tremendous cost? Over the next hours, damage reports flooded in. 17 species had lost their homeworlds. Billions dead. Hundreds of ships destroyed. But the collective was gone. Marcus appeared on Rachel's display from the council chambers. The council is offering humanity a permanent seat in the triumvirate. Full authority over galactic military matters. Decline, Rachel said immediately. Marcus smiled sadly. I already did. I told them we do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to protect it. There is a difference. What did you offer instead? An alliance. Humanity trains council species in warfare and defense. We share our technology for fighting extra-dimensional threats. In return, the council provides resources for rebuilding and support for continued research. We become partners rather than rulers or subjects. Rachel nodded slowly. And they accepted? After seeing 300 human ships sacrifice themselves to save everyone else, they could hardly refuse. Fear no longer drives their decisions regarding humanity. Now it is respect. General Thomas Reeves joined the conversation from the surface. We have a problem, Admiral. Our deep space monitors are detecting anomalies similar to the ones that announced the collective's arrival. Different locations. Different signatures. But the same fundamental wrongness? Rachel felt exhaustion settle over her. How many? 3 separate instances. All at different points along the galactic rim. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed determination. The collective was not unique. It was just the first one to find us. We bought ourselves time, Marcus said. The question is what we do with it. Rachel looked at the list of fallen ships on her display. 300 crews who gave everything so others could live. We honor their sacrifice. We prepare. And when the next threat comes, we face it together. Commander Eva Stone appeared on screen from New Harmony. Admiral D. We are receiving applications from 17 council species requesting integration into human military training programs. Apparently, they were impressed by our performance. "The 1,000-year peace is over," Rachel said quietly. "But maybe, just maybe, we have started something better. A galaxy united not by fear or authority, but by shared purpose." War Matron Krell's image joined the conference. "I have a question, Admiral Kovar. When your ships sacrificed themselves," Captain Cross said, "humanity did not hide for 1,000 years to die afraid." What did he mean? Rachel smiled, though tears streaked her face. "We hid to remember who we are, to preserve what makes us human: courage, sacrifice, the willingness to stand between darkness and those who cannot defend themselves. We did not hide because we were weak. We hid so we would be strong enough to fight when it mattered most." She looked at the gathered representatives of 3,000 civilizations. Former enemies. Former strangers? Now allies forged in shared survival. "The real war is just beginning," she said. "The collective was a vanguard. Test. Whatever sent it is still out there. But when it comes, it will not find frightened prey hiding in the darkness. It will find a galaxy united, a galaxy ready to fight, and it will find humanity standing at the front lines, welcoming the challenge." High Chancellor Vieron raised his crystalline hand in salute. "Then let it come. We will be ready." Around him, 3,000 species echoed the sentiment. Different languages, different cultures, but one voice. The galaxy had awakened to the threats lurking in the dark. And humanity had finally stepped out of the shadows, not as conquerors or rulers, but as teachers, showing others how to be brave when bravery seemed impossible. The 1,000-year peace had ended, but something greater had begun.